Welcome back to the Material Mind, where we unearth meaning anywhere. You don't need to understand everything to enjoy real Japanese made by Japanese people for Japanese people. It wasn't made for learners, but we're gonna mine it anyway. I'm Maksu, your guide through the vast world of Japanese material, ranging from Rock, Paper, Scissors Arcade Edition to a book cover featuring a diagram of a multi-purpose toilet. Today, we've got a nice slice of life anime to dig into. It's a short clip from the anime Kiniro Mosaic. You may have seen this character before, but if not, her name is Karen, and she's an exchange student from England, currently going to a Japanese high school. Today, we'll be looking at this conversation through an N5 lens and our minor metrics chart. Let's get into it. Let's go through this step by step. Let's scan for the easy stuff first. Any romaji? Nope. Numbers or symbols? Nope. Katakana? Yes. Karen. What kanji do you recognize? We know Nihon, but nothing else. What hiragana are there? We know nareshiteru is a verb because of the ru ending, and the shiteiru tells us that Karen is doing something, but we don't know what. How about particles? We have mo as also, but what about wa and yo? See if you notice them used again in the remaining dialogue and can figure out what they do. Let's put all of this together. Pop quiz. Who are we talking about? Karen. What is she doing? Something that we don't know because we don't know this kanji. But we have a hint that it's related to Nihon. What kind of person is Karen? Blonde hair, speaks with a slight accent, obviously a foreigner. Right? Living where? In Japan. She's doing something related to Japan. Let's gather more clues. Is this a question or a statement? A question, of course, as signified by the ka and question mark. Seems like Karen isn't so sure about that previous statement. Romaji, numbers, or symbols? No. Katakana? No. The ri part of is surrounded by kanji, which we don't know at our level, except for maybe kata. But wait, look at this kanji again. Any part of it look familiar? Do you see it? Look right here. Remind you of a specific body part? The mouth, right? And what action do we commonly use our mouth for?
Suck.
Ew, no! I was talking about talking. The left side of a kanji can often give us a hint as to what the meaning is, so keep an eye out for those. Hiragana? Yes. What types of words and particles? There's demo, which we know is but, and maybe toka if you are more advanced than 5. Toka is similar to the ya particle for making lists, including things like blah 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 blah. Putting it together, we get but things like speaking. Karen sounds like she's unsure or maybe not confident about something. That's something relating to Japan. Possibly something to do with her being a foreigner? Or even more specific, maybe something related to her speech style? No romaji, symbols, numbers, or katakana here. We saw shaberu already, and these kanji we heard are pronounced futsu. What hiragana do we have? Sorosoro, ni, renai, and no. What kinds of words are these? We have the same kanji as in the last sentence, but this time as a verb, identifiable by its nai ending. Adjectives? Ni could be indicative of an adverb, something like quickly, slowly, etc. But we don't know those kanji. We'll come back to sorosoro later. How about particles? Ni is a particle with multiple uses, but it's not super apparent if it's being used as a particle here, so we'll ignore it. No can be used as a particle to show possession, but we haven't seen it used at the end of a sentence. Think back to the first sentence's ending particles wa and yo. No is being used in a similar way to these particles, so think about the speaker's age and personality when you hear particles like these at the end of a sentence. One last thing we can determine about this sentence is that it's a question, which we'll get to hear Karen answer. Putting this all together, we have two important hints, both found in this word. What are they? First, we have the hiragana nai, and the left side of this kanji. Mouth, negative, maybe referring to speaking, or rather not speaking, maybe even can't speak. That would make sense as a concern for a British exchange student in Japan.
難しいですね。これは癖なんですよ。
No romaji symbols or numbers. So let's first identify our hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Looks like we were right. The topic of the previous sentence is referred to as being muzukashii, which is a word we know even though we haven't seen its kanji yet. Kore being our topic means we're still talking about the previous topic, which has to do with negative or unable to speak. So we get, this is a kuse. Sounds like kuse, but we don't know this kanji or word. But we know it must be related to either not speaking or not being able to speak. As for nan, we haven't seen it used in this way, only as a question, like in nan desu ka, which we know is not what this sentence is because there is no ka particle at the end. So we'll return to it later.
ほら、あややがよくよこよこ言ってるでしょ。それと同じで。
Let's break down the word types again. While it's mostly hiragana, we know the kanji from yu, to say. The kanji we don't know, but the word seems to be pronounced onaji. Skipping to hiragana, we have a lot here, so let's break them down into categories. Ayaya? Aya is a name, so ayaya is probably a nickname, with yoko being a name too. We already know sore as that, and ayaya is marked with a ga particle, meaning she's our subject. So what is aya doing? Yoku is a frequency word, meaning often. Hora we haven't seen before, but you may have heard it while watching anime, especially when someone is trying to explain or draw attention to something. We have some particles too, of course. Ga, to, and de. Although de isn't really a particle in this case, as we'll see later. Let's put it together. Who is our subject? Ayaya often says yoko yoko, right? That's onaji de. Karen seems to be relating how aya always says yoko yoko to the previous topic, which is Karen's inability to speak in some way. It looks like we really need to know what onaji is to figure this sentence out. Finally, Aya responds with, This is clearly the punchline to Karen's joke, being done in the typical tsukomi comedy style, in which one character is the straight man and the other is the fool, who says something ridiculous that the straight man points out or reacts to in an exaggerated way. This time, nan is actually being used as what? We also know this kanji, hanashi, from the verb hanasu, to speak, along with the two particles to and yo. Of the two meanings the to particle has, Which one is being used here? The quotation and speech particle. We saw to being used earlier to mean and.
それと同じで
But this usage is different because to isn't attached to a noun. Yo makes this statement stronger, but what is the statement? What speak? I think we can safely assume Aya is saying, "What are you talking about?" in response. Let's recap the whole thing before we fill in the puzzle. First, we know Karen is being told that she is also doing something related to Japan. Probably something related to living in Japan as an exchange student. We know from the next few sentences that speaking is mentioned in night form. So either she can't or won't do something. Think. Do you have it? The most likely scenario is that Karen is being told that she seems to be becoming accustomed to living in Japan. Karen then says, "Really? Is that so?" She seems to have doubts, which she expresses when she says,
そうですか
"But speaking..." Any guesses? Perhaps her way of speaking? Her ability to speak Japanese? Aya asks Karen,
そろそろ普通に喋れないの
"Something speak not?" If you recognize 普通 from pronunciation alone, then you could make a guess that Aya is asking something like, "Aren't you able to speak normally?" Karen says,
難しいですね
It's difficult.
これは癖なんですよ
This is a kuse.
ほらあややがよくよこよこ言ってるでしょそれと同じで
Hora. Aya often yoko yoko saying, right? That and onaji. Figured out the unknown words? If it's something related to a speech, kuse, it's most likely a habit, maybe a quirk Karen has when she speaks. Since she's not a native Japanese speaker, Karen seems to be relating the speaking habit to how Aya often talks about her friend and often says, "Yoko yoko." So maybe Karen is saying Aya's habit is the same as that. Of course, Aya rejects that joke by saying, "What story?" As in, "What are you talking about?" We actually already filled in most of the gaps just through guesswork. So let's look at the actual English translation to see how close we got.
彼も相当日本慣れしてるわよそうですかでも喋り方とかそろそろ普通に喋れないの難しいですねこれは癖なんですよほらあややがよくよこよこ言ってるでしょそれと同じで
Wow, we guessed nearly everything correctly. Do you see how powerful immersion can be? Just look at how much we were able to understand at an N5 level. If you were wondering about the only words that we don't have a translation that is made obvious through English for, the suffixes wa, yo, and no, those particles are used for conveying a certain speech style and emotion, and therefore don't have direct translations into English, and are often ignored when creating subtitles, which is why learning Japanese can give you a much deeper understanding of a character's personality. But that's all for this dig. If you have any specific immersion content recommendations, please write them in the comments below. I'm always open to new ideas and would love to hear about your experience with immersion learning. If you enjoyed this breakdown and would like to see more, like, subscribe, and hit that bell button to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our new content. If you're looking for more N5 content, go ahead and click right here. As always, thank you for watching, and I wish you the best on your immersion journey. じゃあねー。